It was in the year 2014 when a satellite snapped a picture of something unusual in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It was a giant, almost perfect ring floating all by itself. It was an eerie sight. This formation showed up thousands of miles southwest of Hawaii and was about 280 miles wide. Who created this ring? How did it appear there? The questions were countless. The huge ring was spotted by NASA's Terra satellite with the help of a special camera called MODIS. Later, after examining the images, scientists realized that the ring was made out of perfectly shaped clouds. Even though clouds like this aren't super rare, it's not common to see one that big and completely on its own. Normally, such clouds show up in groups, not just hanging out solo in the middle of nowhere. The ring is made of puffy cumulus clouds. It turned out that it had been shaped by something called a Rayleigh-Bernard convection cell. It's a fancy schmancy way of saying that the clouds formed when warm air rose and cooler air sank, creating a circular pattern. Now, there are two types of such cloud cells. One is a closed cell, where cold air sinks around the edges and clouds pop up in the middle. The other is an open cell, where cold air sinks in the center and clouds form around the outside. And that giant ring floating over the ocean was exactly a closed cell, hence its cool shape. Interestingly, such cloud patterns usually look like a bunch of hexagons packed together, like a beehive in the sky. But this one was out there all by itself, which made it even more eye-catching. Now let's take a look at how the ring's formation happened in detail, shall we? At one point, the sun heated up the water or land, warming the air above it. That warm air got lighter and started rising. Cumulus clouds formed. Maybe it even rained a bit. When that rain came down, it cooled the air beneath the clouds. That cooler air then sank and spread out in all directions. But when it ran into the surrounding warmer air, it pushed the warm air upward again. That's how the ring of clouds formed around the original spot. This whole thing happened just south of the Intertropical Convergence Zone, a region near the equator where trade winds meet and often cause thunderstorms and heavy rain. That particular location probably helped with the formation of this cool cloud pattern too. Now, take a look at the right side of the satellite image. The ocean looks super shiny there, almost like silver. That shiny effect is called sunglint. It happens when sunlight reflects directly off the ocean's surface and hits the satellite camera just right. It kind of turns the sea into a ginormous swirling mirror. The cool thing is that the texture of the water, whether it's smooth or choppy, changes how that sunglint looks. Most of the time, the wind stirs up the surface, creating waves. These waves normally scatter the sunlight in different directions. But some of that light still hits the satellite, so the area looks shiny. But sometimes, if the water is super calm or there's a break in the wave pattern, it can create darker patches where less light gets reflected back. It gives sunglint zones a strange, patchy look. So if you notice really dark spots in satellite images, keep in mind that they might not be shadows or oil spills. Most likely, they're just signs of how the wind and waves are behaving on the surface of the ocean. Now, at the same time, it's not just weak winds that can smooth out the water. According to an oceanography professor from the University of South Florida, other stuff like freshwater, ship wakes, and even natural ocean movement, such as underwater waves or currents, can change the water's texture too. And all these phenomena can mess with how the sunlight reflects, which in turn can cause weird patterns in the images. Some of the darker lines you can see, for example, inside places like Delaware Bay or Chesapeake Bay, might be freshwater mixed with things like algae, dissolved plant material, or even natural oils. But those patches aren't usually as big as the giant dark blob they saw off Delmarva. It happened on May 6, 2023, when the ocean just east of the Delmarva Peninsula was super calm. There was barely any wind. So the surface of the water was all smooth and glassy like a giant mirror, and the angle was just right to make it look dark. Now, even though these sunglint effects make for some stunning satellite pictures, they can be annoying for scientists who are trying to study the color of the ocean or track things like phytoplankton blooms. Basically, sunglint can cover up the stuff they actually want to see. So, to work around that, scientists and engineers have built tools to either fix the data afterward or design sensors that avoid the glare in the first place. For example, the new Ocean Color instrument on NASA's upcoming PACE mission is designed to tilt just enough to dodge the worst of the sun's reflection. Oh, by the way, NASA scientist Ralph Kahn reminds us that our eyes can deceive us, judging brightness based on what's around it. So even a dark patch in an image might actually be pretty bright. It just looks dark compared to the shiny parts nearby. Now, let's tilt our heads back to the night sky. See that weird glowing spiral? Looks pretty extraterrestrial, doesn't it? Well, chances are it was just a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket doing its thing. When these rockets launch satellites into orbit, they sometimes dump leftover fuel once they're high up in the atmosphere. That fuel freezes and starts spinning around as the rocket moves. It looks like a mini ice tornado in space. But what makes it look even crazier is sunlight. Even if it's dark where you are, the rocket's way up high where the sun can still hit it. The light reflects off the icy fuel spiral, making it glow. Just a bit of night sky drama, but nothing mysterious. Now, let's admit it, you aren't likely to see a real-life flying saucer. What you can see, though, is a lenticular cloud, which looks pretty much the same if you ask me. These clouds pop up high in the sky, usually around mountains, where moist air flows over them just right. Even though the wind is moving super fast, these clouds just kind of hang there, totally still, like someone has parked them there. They're usually perfectly shaped, smooth, and saucer-like. And still, it's just nature showing off again.
3, 2, 1.
Another kind of weird stuff you might see in the sky is space junk. When satellites stop working, a lot of them are just left behind, floating around. Eventually, they slow down because of atmospheric drag and start falling back to Earth. When they do, they light up the sky like massive fireballs. Sometimes it can last for nearly a minute. As the pieces burn up, the different materials they contain can create colorful streaks in the sky. And once in a while, chunks actually survive the trip and crash land on Earth. The leftover bits are often twisted and scorched, and they look so strange that people sometimes think they're wreckage of spaceships from another planet. But nope, just another piece of our own space clutter coming home. Now, look at this. A plane is flying straight toward the horizon and leaving behind a long contrail. You know, that artificial cloud from engine exhaust? And in some cases, it can look like something is falling from the sky. The wind can blow those trails wider, making the whole picture seem even more dramatic because it looks like smoke from a crashing object. Add in the red glow from a setting sun and, well, it looks like something is on fire and plummeting to Earth. Plus, if sunlight reflects off the bottom of the plane just right, it can look like there's a glowing core in the crashing cloud. But the giveaway is the speed, slow. Real falling objects, especially from space, zip across the sky at thousands of miles per hour. So if it's barely moving, it's probably just a plane. Nothing to worry about. Wink, wink.